Welcome back to 755 is Real World Series Spectacular, edition number 3. And as always, we are brought to you by Topps. Topps Project 70, celebrating 70 years of Topps baseball cards. Check it out now. If you haven't checked it out, what have you been doing? All right. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer for The Athletic. And I'm with my regular co-host, Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves reliever who never got to pitch in a World Series.
Nope. I did not.
Never, ever did it.
That
Did you ever pitch in the postseason? Did you ever pitch in the postseason, Eric? I forgot.
Yeah, 2012 wild card game. That was it.
Oh, yeah. How'd that go?
Sorry. 0.
Too
zero.
soon.
And
Too
then
soon.
had a nice view of some garbage flying down from the second deck in the 7th.
Oh, man. Imagine if that happened. I got to tell you, man, when Dansby Swanson, on something unrelated to the World Series, when Dansby Swanson called out the crowd, in effect, earlier this year for throwing garbage on the field, I thought, he might have overstepped his bounds. I thought, man, they might boo him next time he comes out or whatever. The next time something happened a few weeks ago, remember the bad call? Terrible call.
Yeah.
No garbage went on the field. None. I'm like, that's like a first here. You know, they chanted and everything, but no garbage went on the field. So Dansby might have more pull than we gave him credit for.
Was that, you're talking about the play against Milwaukee where the ball bounced?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
it was a terrible play, terrible call.
Luckily, the game didn't turn out. Luckily that didn't cost them. But
yeah,
I kind of felt the same way. Like, shit, this could be that same.
Right. I was waiting for it.
Game-changing type of moment, but it didn't.
World Series is underway, Eric, and the Braves come home with me tired and them split 1-1. Now, this is kind of like when they came back from LA and we said, if somebody had told the Braves that you could be up 2-1 coming back from LA, you'd have said, hell yeah, we'll take that. Even though everybody at the time was going, oh, the momentum's totally shifted. Oh, they're going to get killed now. It's just like it's just like last year. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
They're going to lose and they did. And they came home and they've kicked ass at Truist Park for a while now. So they just got to keep this thing going at Truist Park, where they won 10 of their last 11 games, including all 5 playoff games. Only loss in that stretch was the day after they clinched, when they rested about half or 2/3 of the lineup and they lost to the Mets, which really, I just throw that out the window anyway. So This home factor has been a real home factor lately, after not being much of one for most of the year when they played better on the road record-wise. So they're going to need it to overcome this pitching. What's happening with the pitching?
Man, it sucks too, because when I looked at the rosters, I thought that was the main area they had the advantage.
Yeah, I did too. Rotation especially.
Charlie gets hurt and Fried just hasn't quite been himself right now. You essentially had a bullpen game 1.
Yeah.
Charlie went out quick. Fried wasn't the same yesterday, but I got to give him credit. He battled and got through more innings than I expected, because I felt like the hook was coming. And
in the second inning
for leaving him in. He it looked like the last couple innings he pitched, it looked like he found it to me. And then he got in a little trouble when he got yanked. But he kind of cruised there for a second and looked pretty sharp.
He retired 9 in a row. He had 3 perfect innings. And 2 of those innings, he had 2 strikeouts each.
And he looked like himself again.
He was really like Max Fried for innings 3 through 5.
Yeah.
And you're right. There's about half the managers in this postseason at least would have yanked him in the second inning.
But you can't. With an off day today, you could have, but
they're on fumes though.
On fumes.
That bullpen yesterday was on fumes, and
yeah.
I think Snit trusts him enough to think that he was going to kick it in gear. Because Snit said afterwards, I find it hard to even say that he was struggling, because Snit didn't think he was struggling. I mean, I thought he was, but Snit thought it was mostly balls through the infield and all that. The first inning, they hit a couple of balls hard though, to the wall, to the track. The double.
The first inning for me was alarming. The first inning, I was like, shit, man, he's not right.
Yeah.
The second inning, when he gave up the 3 or 4 runs, that was just shitty luck. I mean,
broken bat, jam shot in RBI single.
Infield single. Gurriel went the other way, which, he's one of those guys that I wouldn't shift. It looked like he did that on purpose when he hit that ball to the right of second base.
Yeah.
Like he was just looking for something he could just push through that hole. There's something about, shifting back control guys. And there's certain guys in the league that they get shifted and then teams stop shifting them, because the reason they're pulling the ball and hitting a certain way is because that's where the field's open. Teams start to shift them. And that's when you learn they have the back control to just shoot that hole. And it looked like he meant to do that. So, I mean, that's extremely frustrating as a pitcher. You know, when Max looks back and think he's got a double play ball and it's just, somebody's running a post route from shortstop trying to go get that thing. That's extremely frustrating. But I thought his tempo looked better. I thought his stuff looked sharper. I thought he kind of maybe pitched to his strengths a little too much instead of their weaknesses, which is always a question when you come into pitching a game. Like he attacked Altuve inside, and that's kind of Altuve's strength. You got to stay down away to him, try to get a ground ball. But there's a lot of at-bats like that early where I was like, he needs to make an adjustment strategy-wise, but his stuff and his control and everything to me looked pretty good.
Yeah, it's not like he was throwing 92, or that his curveball wasn't breaking at all. I mean, he wasn't throwing his fastball up in the zone like he normally does. He wasn't getting any swings and misses with a fastball. And I asked him that in the interview room, and I asked him, because he threw however many sinkers and four seamers combined that it was, he got one swing and miss.
Yeah.
Now he answered to me, it's not normally a swing and miss pitch for me. I just normally get a lot of ground balls with it.
Yep.
And he wasn't getting as many of those last night as normal. And he wasn't getting any swing and misses, which we usually get some. But I'm with you, though. I didn't think that the stuff was like alarmingly degraded or whatever. And those 3 innings, he was fine. So I guess what makes it alarming was that the previous start was bad against the Dodgers. So this back-to-back bad starts for him numbers-wise when he hadn't had a bad start, since the beginning of August.
Right. But if those balls go to somebody, none of them were hit hard in the second inning.
Yeah.
If those balls wind up going to people, you're a hero. Yeah. And that's what I talk about all the time, is not necessarily looking at the results.
Yeah.
As far as the box score, but looking at how you threw the ball. And when you're giving up soft contact, infield singles, CNI singles, Maldonado hits a soft ground ball with some top spin. It just happens to be right in the hole. Stuff like that. You have to be able to analyze as a pitcher and say, I didn't pitch like shit there. The game against the Dodgers, they were shitting on the ball. There's no debating, like, 2-3 home runs that are torched. Yeah. There was nothing lucky about the way the Dodgers hit them.
Exactly.
The game yesterday with the Astros, you kind of got to say, you know what? Maybe I had a good game plan or a bad game plan, but I threw the ball really, really well. I was commanding it. My stuff was there. I don't need to change too much going in this next start. I just have to, stay confident and believe that if I throw the ball well, I'll get better results this time.
And I thought he handled the questions really well about the shift because he has the right perspective. It's like the Braves have been a much better team since they started shifting so much in May, because that's when they did. They made a decision to start shifting, and they've been a much better defensive team with the shift. Okay, so you can't just note when the shift cost you hits and then not note all those screaming liners up the middle when Ozzie Albies or Dansby Swanson is sitting right there and routine. And that's a double or, at least a single so many times. Those balls, they might go to the gap. They might roll to the gap, if the guys aren't shifted.
Yep.
So you can't say that. Fans are, on Twitter going, if we're not shifted, that's a double play. It's like, well, yeah, but if you're not shifted, then these other ones are that's the way they play.
And if you're not shifted, he doesn't try to hit the ball like that.
Yeah.
There's certain guys especially. And I saw Bellinger do it in the last series. And
right. Yes. Yes.
The thing is there's certain shifts that leave an entire left or right side of the infield wide open.
Right.
Guys can hit that gap when it's kind of catered to their swing, but you still got the shortstop on the shortstop side of the bag, and the second baseman's maybe a little bit more toward right, and they're kind of a little shifted. Those extreme shifts though against a back control guy. Yeah. I think this offseason or this postseason, I've seen it more than any other time I've watched baseball. Is really good players purposely take a single to beat the shift, and
they're learning how to, because so many teams are shifting now.
Everybody's doing it.
Yeah, you got to try it a little bit more, than you would have before.
But nobody cries when that hard ground ball up the middle, 105 miles an hour, is right to a second baseman, and he steps on the bag.
And it happens all the time.
All the time.
And how about the night before when Ozzie fielded that ball close, running in shallow right field, going to the line.
First inning. Change the game.
If that gets through, the whole game is changed. If he's not shifted, that goes through.
I feel like if that ball gets through, they lose the game.
That's totally different.
There's no telling what happens that inning.
And that's what Dusty noted too. So I mean, so I don't ever say that about shifts, because that is the way the team plays, and they're not going to just stop playing like that when you get in the postseason.
Well, everybody's doing it for a reason.
Yeah, because our percentages. say that you're going to take away more hits than you're going to give up.
Yeah.
Playing straight up.
But it sucks. It sucks when you're pitching and you get just a shitty ground ball at the second baseman.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, oh, cool, I'm out of this thing. You turn around and look, and there's nobody in sight. And that thing's
it's rolling to right field.
6 miles an hour toward the right fielder. Like that guy's going to stop in the infield.
And the guy's just flying around first base for a double.
Yeah.
Or around third base to score.
That's when it's hard to maintain that perspective that, most of the time it bails you out. But it's definitely deflating, especially if you're scrambling and trying to get through an inning like Max was. And that ball Gurriel hit. Because you could see Gurriel consciously make an effort to get his hands inside the ball. And
that's what Max said.
He pushed it to the right side. And that's my only question with it. I used to always think, there's no way a team's going to shift Martin Prado because he's a bat control guy. Right. And you see some of these bat control guys get shifted. And I think that for them, it's like, well, go ahead and shift me. I'll just take my single until you stop doing it because they can actually control where they hit the ball. The big dogs and the guys that are just trying to go deep, I think it's really smart. But there's some of those bat control guys, and especially if you're managing or you're aligning your defense and you see a guy consciously just push a ball, he's not trying to do any damage. He's just pushing a ground ball where your second baseman should be. Then maybe you think twice about shifting that guy.
I don't know what we can say about Charlie, man. That was like, I have never seen anything like that though. I mean, it's happened. Bob Gibson did something similar, pitched with a broken bone for a while, but that shot off of his shin or near the ankle was so flush that it went straight to Freddie basically. And he had a ground, it was an out, and it was 102 off the bat.
Off the bone.
And it went boom, boom, one hopper. For him to go back out to get the last 2 outs in that inning and then go out and strike out Altuve. And then he struck out Altuve on that curveball. And you could see where he kind of turned like you normally do. You land on your foot and you kind of twist. And you could see that's when it did. He just like, oh, this is too much. It just hit him.
Yeah.
And he could barely walk off the field. And he only did if he was a lesser guy with a lesser pain tolerance, he would have been helped off that field.
Like Avalon with a cramp.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I didn't, it didn't register because it'd been so long.
It's been so long. I thought Achilles at first. I thought Achilles because he's 37.
That's what I thought.
And it's one of those motions that when it happens, when it snaps, and his response was kind of like Achilles, he was like that. I'm like, oh no, don't let it be Achilles. No.
Yeah. And he pitched far enough away from that play where he got line drive because you're always wondering about those.
Yeah.
But he jogs, he covers first, and then he finishes the inning. You're like, okay, It didn't hurt him because you can get smoked with a line drive, and if it hits some good padding, you're fine. You don't even feel it. You have a bruise for a few days, and you keep moving. But if it hits the wrong spot, if it hits a bone, you're in trouble.
It swelled up between innings.
Yeah, and I think that's when it got him was when he stopped moving on it.
Yeah, and it kept swelling up, and then I think he worsened it, landing and kind of twisting or whatever. So the good thing is it's not a torn ligament. It's not because like torn ankle ligaments or a knee or a shoulder or elbow, something that would put, next year in jeopardy for the first half of the season. This is a broken bone, a fracture. It wasn't snapped all the way through. I don't think, but he went to see the specialist in Green Bay, which tells me that surgery might be a possibility, whether that's to put a plate on it to strengthen it, so he can work out in the winter or whatever. I don't know. We haven't heard yet, but he did go to that specialist, same doctor that did Soroka and Steph Curry and Derek Jeter and Chipper. Oh, that guy. So that tells me it was more that, they want to make sure they get it right. And maybe I didn't get the impression. Obviously it didn't break all the way through or he wouldn't have been able to walk off the field. So
I also heard that he may not have broken it because I guess they did an x-ray in between innings.
I don't know. I don't know. That was kind of, I think the Braves, I thought Snip kind of felt bad. I got a sense that Snip didn't want people thinking he sent an injured guy back out there to pitch, because just listening to Cranny's comments, he talked to Kenny after that. Cranny never mentioned that he went down and got an x-ray and everything. And Eric, you don't know how long that inning's going to last. What if it's 3 up, 3 down? They're going to send him down to get an x-ray? and just trust that he's going to be able to do it, get back. And I just don't, I find it hard to believe that he got an x-ray that quick, that they said, okay, it's fine. And he went back out and then it broke from doing the regular movement of pushing off the rubber, stepping. He didn't put stress on it again, other than the normal push off. He didn't plant and stop and start, he didn't get hit again. I don't know. That didn't make much sense to me. But
I kind of buy it. I don't know if it's a little bit more believable when you're at home. You get an x-ray at home in 45 seconds. They got the machine in the clubhouse. Right. I don't know how far the Astros clubhouse is, but yeah, your only fear would be getting him back out for the next inning if he was going back out. But x-rays, they could do x-rays in the clubhouse. Like,
oh yeah, they're there at all the new ballparks.
Yeah. So, I wouldn't, maybe you cover your ass, but I wouldn't think they would. But yeah, you definitely, if you send a guy back out and he winds up breaking his leg or something, I don't know. The thing is, you're losing him for the series anyway. If his leg's that compromised,
right? And if he wanted to pitch, if he's saying I'm going back out, then why would you get an X-ray? If he says I'm fine, I'm good to go, why would you get an X-ray? If he said, unless he said, oh, this really hurts. I mean, you guys get hit in the shin all the time, and and it hurts. But it seems like if he did that, so what's going to show up on the x-ray? It's going to show that the bone's perfectly fine. And then he goes back out and it breaks from doing the routine thing. In other words, if it aggravated it, the x-ray would have shown a slight something, a crack or something. If you're suggesting that when he went back out, it made it worse and it then broke. Wouldn't the initial x-ray show some damage there if the thing was about to break from routine pushing off the rubber? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know, because there was
why wouldn't it show the compromise?
There was a UFC fight, Conor McGregor, about maybe a month or two ago, where the theory was that he had damaged his leg checking a kick, and then when he broke it, he was just walking backwards, and the bone finally just gave out. So I mean, it could have been a thing like that where that weakened the bone. But if
Conor McGregor would have got an x-ray after he got kicked, it would have shown a compromised bone
before it fully snapped. Yeah.
That was about to snap. So. And I'm saying if he would have got an x-ray after that, it wouldn't have shown a perfectly fine bone.
No.
And then he goes out and by throwing 12 more pitches or whatever, it went from perfectly fine to fractured from just pushing off. That's what I'm saying. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm no specialist. I'm no doctor.
Either way,
He tough son of a bitch.
Leg up on a line drive back up the middle.
He's a tough son of a bitch.
And it messed his leg up bad enough that whether it was broken or not when he was pitching on it, or if he did it on the last pitch, that shit had to hurt, and he didn't want to come out of the game.
And he got 3 outs and struck out 2 of them.
Yeah.
He retired all 3 guys.
And now his leg's broken.
And struck out Jose Altuve.
Yeah, made him look bad.
Man. So, now he's done. He's done. And where it really hurts you, obviously, is he was going to make another start in this series. If the thing went 5 games, he was going to be your game 5 starter. And there's a chance then that he could have come back on short rest like he did with the 2017 Astros when he came back and pitched 4 relief innings in game 7 and was the winning pitcher in game and made it, became an icon or legend there. He could have done that here too. If he pitched game 5, he could have come back on short rest in game 7 if they needed him. So, and now what makes it so bad, obviously, is what we just said. They would only have 3 starters they could really count on.
Yeah,
Fried's not pitching great, and they're leaning so hard on those 3 or 4 relievers.
Yep.
Mentor, heroic, 3 2+ inning relief stints in a span of 7 days. How tough is that, dude?
Well, and the toughest thing about his, he came up off the bench. He had to warm up on the field. I think Charlie had a rough inning, so he might have been throwing a little bit ahead of time. But the hardest thing to do is go out there and warm up on the field and go into a game, because you just mentally, it throws you off. You're not expecting to be in at the time you come in. You kind of let your guard down, you settle down, and all of a sudden they say you're in. You're sitting there in a chair, and you just jog out onto a major league mound and warm up. I couldn't believe how fast he got ready, but I was real interested to see how it affected him.
Did you see Cranny's quotes on that? He said after he went down and Snit told him, Cranny talked to Snit, because Cranny thought it was just a shin thing, a burner, was going to be fine. He was going to hurt, but he was going to be okay. And Snit said, I don't know if he's going to be able to go back out there. That was when they were looking at him, between innings. And Cranny's like, oh, I didn't know it was that bad. So Cranny called and had Mentor
Okay.
and Chavi start warming up and get ready
Yeah.
mentally. That's
That
what he
makes
said.
sense.
What you were just saying. He wanted them to mentally start because
Yeah.
Mentor never goes in that early.
Well, that's
So he
big.
wanted them to start getting ready.
And he dealt. I mean,
He dealt.
this whole postseason.
He could have gone 3 innings if they'd have made a play. He
Yeah.
went 2 2/3.
Yeah.
So in 7 days, he went 2-2. I think it was 2-2 and 2 2/3, and they were all terrific.
Yeah. So I mean, he's the one thing for me that I feel good about. You know, I mean, he started a game last year in the NLCS.
Yeah.
But if you get to a point where you got to go a bullpen game, I feel really good throwing Minter out there to start it off.
Yeah.
You know,
I would
say 2 1/3 out of him, 2 2/3.
I would say you could start him in game 5, but I think you'll need him in game 4. You know,
that's the problem.
Yeah. You can't say we can't use him in game 4 because we want to start him in game 5.
That's why, you know, and you have to play it like that. You can't play it. You can't say he's so valuable that if you get a game you can put away.
Right. You got to use him.
Fuck his start. You know, I mean, exactly. Honestly, if you get a game that you can put away and you're up, you know, in the 5th or 6th inning by 2 or 3 runs and you need 2 innings out of him now, game 5 is whatever game 5 is. If you're winning game 3 or 4, you need him. That's why you just can't plan on using him at a certain, you know, in a certain game. But
and that's why Kyle Wright was so huge last night. That was the best thing that happened in that game last night was Kyle Wright.
Yeah,
guy we have not seen since June. Been at AAA, dealing in AAA, but we're like, okay, you're dealing in AAA, big deal. We've seen Kyle Wright do this enough times, like 4. I think he's had stints in 4 different years, and it's never lasted. Well, he's been dealing in AAA. He gets added to the roster, and I kind of roll my eyes when he's added to the roster. But you know, they needed another arm, and he's pitched great in AAA, and they're running out of arms. So he comes in last night, and dude, he was filthy.
He was filthy.
That stuff you've talked about it from the first time you ever saw him. That slider is just, I mean, it's as good as you see.
Big, tall guy throwing a hard, sharp slider. You know, I mean, he's got all the tools, and we've talked about it for however many years. And you know, it's like when a guy's dealing in AAA, I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
they're always dealing in AAA.
Especially if they've been there. If they've been there for 3 years, you know,
they're comfortable there. And that's the main difference is just the confidence and the comfort they have in that level. You know, it's a step down. They expect to succeed, and then they come up to the big leagues. They're not sure if they can do it.
Yeah.
So I think for him, obviously, I would like his start if he was going to get a start.
Yeah.
I feel way better about his start. Him getting to go out and get 3 punches last night.
Yeah.
You know, getting that out of the way.
Struck out everybody he faced in the 8th inning.
Versus having a chance to sit there and think about it all day and wonder if he can do it. You know, he went out there, and I know it wasn't a close game. You know, there wasn't as much pressure as possible as starting a game or whatever. Right. But it's still the World Series. You know, all your family's watching, the whole world's watching.
Yeah.
You know, this is for him, he knows if he doesn't pitch well in this, if he goes out and gets titted, gives up 4 runs right there, he's not seeing the field again in the World Series unless it's a 12-run game. So for him, there was plenty of pressure. He went out and struck out the side.
And he's maybe not seeing the field again for the Braves because in the offseason, he's a lot easier to trade if he failed once again, you know?
Yeah.
I just, and you talk about his mound demeanor, which can look great at times. And then when something goes wrong, he just kind of crumbles. Yeah. His mound demeanor last night, I thought looked terrific. Yeah. He looked like I do this all the time. What are you talking about? You know, he looked like I'm a stud from Vanderbilt. I was one of the best pitchers in college ball, and I'm still a great guy prospect. That's what he looked like. And he's throwing hard too, and just dotting spots. I just thought he looked really good, man. That was the most impressive inning I saw last night.
Yeah.
Other than a couple of innings, I can't pronounce his name with a Q. Their starter last night.
Oh, Urquidy.
He was really good last night.
He must have had a sneaky fastball, but I'll tell you what, he doesn't waste any time and he fills up the zone.
Yeah. 7 strikeouts, no walks last night.
Yeah, he went after guys. I think he's got one of those fastballs that kind of gets on hitters.
Yeah.
Because even Rosario's been as hot as they come, and he was missing fastballs down the middle. But what I do feel really good about that, and it's the same thing I feel about when teams see Ian for the second time. I feel like if the Braves face Urquidy again in this World Series, they're going to have seen it. And when a guy's kind of got something different that you have to see to adjust to, I always give the hitters advantage the next time they see him, because now the show, it's not a gimmick anymore. They know what to expect. If the fastball's sneaky and plays up and beats them at 94, they know to treat it like 97, and they believe it, and they'll do it this time. So I feel if they face him again, I feel good about it.
I mean, I'm trying to remember who else pitched for them last night, but it was Maton, who we're going to see a lot, young guy, Presley, Christian Javier, Urquidy, and then who they bring in to close? The Graveman from Seattle.
Yeah.
Did anybody you saw last night have better stuff than Kyle Wright? Maybe Graveman?
Graveman does. Graveman.
But Kyle Wright was right up there, though, dude. Besides, I mean, he was good. He was that good. And I've been one of his harshest critics. I've been like, okay, I'm done with this guy because he's fallen on his face so many times when you think he's turned a corner. But that was impressive last night. And don't forget, he did it last year in a postseason, so it's not like he's never done it in a postseason. So he probably felt a little more comfortable than he might have.
In this park.
Yep. Pitched great here and then fell on his face in the other one in LCS. But he pitched great in this park. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he looked great.
Astros.
I mean, you're gonna have to go to somebody,
Yeah.
You're gonna need somebody to make a start.
You can't just do everything with
you can't have 4 bullpen games.
And you can't have AJ go 2 to 3 innings every night and Matzik go an inning and a third and Luke go an inning. You can't, I mean, you're probably going to try to, but you got to have somebody else do it too. Chavez, he's done okay.
Yep.
He's done okay. Smiley last night reminded you of why he is just, you cannot rely on the guy. I mean, he comes in last night and first pitch is hit for a bomb by Altuve. Why you would throw a fastball right down the middle to Altuve, who hits that first pitch as well as anybody, I have no idea. Why would you do that? He swings at the first pitch all the time.
Starters are used to coming in and getting their feet wet a little bit, testing the water. But for Altuve, it's a second, third at bat.
Yeah,
he's ready. If you
he ambushes
some
anybody.
Nasty pitches, he's already hit off of Charlie.
Yeah,
I mean, he's already hit off a Freed in the series, so he sees something he feels like he can handle. He's not wasting any time.
Yeah, he'll ambush you, man. That guy does not waste time. So, yeah, he's Acuna up there with just ready. So he crushed that first pitch and got that in enough. To Smiley's credit, I thought that inning was just going to be an utter disaster and he was going to have to wear it. He didn't give up another run in that inning somehow. He gave up a double, a ground ball. He hit Yordan Alvarez. Then he gets a fly ball. Then he walks a guy. So the bases are loaded and he strikes out Gurriel to leave 3. Yeah. I mean, that inning looked like it was capable of just blowing up and them getting beat again 11-2 like they did the Dodgers.
Yeah. I'm waiting for them to make a big comeback win.
Yeah. In the playoffs like that.
Like if you're going to win this series, you got to win a game you're not supposed to win.
Yeah.
And I thought last night would have been a good one. They had some chances.
Yeah, they did.
A few times they had some chances to find a way back in it. And if they can find a way back in one of these games, I think they can win them because they got enough depth in the pen to keep it close.
I thought after Soler's 1-out double in the 6th inning, I thought this is the inning where they do it, where they score some runs. And then Jock Peterson had a terrible game last night at the plate. He pops up to shallow center. He doesn't even move him over. And Duvall popped up foul to end that inning. So that just went, Jock last night, dude, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. The first 3 games of his postseason, 2 pinch hit homers and a pinch hit, a single in the first 3 games. He has done very little. He hit the home run, but as a starter, other than that home run, he's done almost nothing at the plate. And I don't think you're going to see him starting these games here with the DH. No DH, I mean. I don't think you'll see him start.
I like him off the bench.
I do too. I think he's such a weapon off the bench. I know he wants to play, obviously, but I just think he's so good as a pinch hitter.
Yeah.
Most guys can't do that role, but he does it great. And when you've got Soler, Rosario, and Duvall, and you don't have a DH, I don't know, man. I don't know how you sit any of those guys.
Just depending on the matchups, but
yeah.
I don't know. It's always baseball too. I mean, it's like you can be locked in and take an 0 for 4 strikeout 3 times.
Yeah. Well, one of them the one he argued, the last one that called third strike was at the very bottom of the zone, if not below it. And he had a right to argue on that one. But
which overall, I feel like so many more calls are going the Astros' way, balls and strikes. And I don't know, sometimes that's when you're at home.
Yeah. That strike zone last night was left a little to be desired, didn't it?
Yeah. But at the same time, the game's changed a lot in that sense where I saw everybody making this big fuss over that pitch Freddie struck out on. That was a centimeter off the plate away.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's K zones on the screen, but at the same time, there used to be a saying, it's too close to take.
Exactly.
And there's certain stuff you just can't leave in the umpire's hands. And I think what's really hard is these guys know the zone so well that when that ball is a centimeter off the plate, they know it's a ball.
Right.
And they're looking for something they can hit harder and hit better and drive into a gap. And then the ump calls it a strike and it ruins their at bat. And that happens all throughout the game. But for me, that's almost a bad thing to know the zone that well, because a pitch like that, you can't leave in the umpire's hands.
Yeah. And having that box on the screen,
terrible.
People see it now.
Yeah.
There, over the years, there were so many pitches that would have been a little bit outside that box and people wouldn't have said a word. But now when it's just barely outside the box, I'm like, come on, man, you can't naked eye. You can't tell that.
No, my first 8 years in the big leagues, that pitch was a strike 100% of the time.
Yeah.
If the catcher set up away and you threw a fastball away a little bit off the plate and their glove didn't move.
Oh yeah.
It was a strike every time. And now it's like, it's a ball most of the time, but when it gets called a strike, everybody's so shocked,
Right. If it's half a ball outside, now it's called a ball.
Yeah.
And when you go back to Glavine and Maddox and the catcher set up and the umpire would reward them for being able to hit the mitt and just
3-4 inches.
And those guys were genius. They would slowly move it outside and work it. I mean, they just did it. They were masters of it. They mastered the craft.
Yeah.
That's just the way it was. I mean, they would adopt to today's game if they didn't get that, but they got it. So why wouldn't you do it? But that was a different game.
Yeah. That's another thing going on too, is umpires now, they give you a strike when you miss your spot. You try to throw a fastball away.
Yeah.
And you miss inside at the hip.
Yeah.
And the catcher dives across the plate for it. Umps are ready to call that. Which they never gave that to you in the past. So for me, the zone's changed. I feel like it's gotten smaller as a whole because you can expand it and do what Glavine and Maddox did.
Right.
And hit the glove and try to get that reward. But I don't know. It'll be interesting. It's interesting for me to see people complaining about a pitch a centimeter off the plate.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's just something, that's in the spirit of the game. You're not supposed to leave that in the ump's hands.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I think a rain out could really help them. It's about 50% chance of rain tomorrow night, 45-50. It's going to be cold here, man. It's going to look like a postseason game in the Northeast. And we've had beautiful weather here for the first 2 rounds. It was in the 70s, 80 and sunny, clear. And now we come home and it just got cool and chilly here in the last 2 days. So it's kind of a shame, but at the same time, it could really benefit the Braves if they can push this thing back to just by a day. You go game 3 on Saturday. If that were to happen, then Max be on regular rest for game 4.
Shit, tell that grounds crew to have some
game
trouble
5, or game 5. So you'd have Ian in game 3. You'd have a bullpen game in game 4 and Ian or Max on regular rest on game 5. Then you'd probably have to go you'd probably have to go bullpen game on game 6. But like you said, you can't worry about when you have to do it later. You want to win the games now when you can.
Yeah.
And if you could win with Ian and then whatever's going to happen in that bullpen game be at worst 2-2 with Max going, you got to think Max is due for a real good start after he finished that last night.
I think he'll clean it up. I thought, honestly, I thought his mechanics looked a lot better. He looked a lot more calm in his delivery.
Yeah.
He looked taller. He looked like his tempo was way better. They put some base runners on the first inning, sped him up a little bit, and they hit balls hard in the first inning. I'm not taking that away from him. But the second inning was one of those innings that you really have to be a mature baseball player and be able to analyze and say, fuck, they didn't hit me hard that inning.
Yeah.
And that's when
I think he was.
The first inning, fine. They crushed the ball. They were hitting it well. They were on everything. The second inning, whatever. They just hit C&I ground balls and put together a big inning somehow. But that wasn't for me. That wasn't on him. And then, staying with his approach, it played out and he looked pretty good the next three.
And I thought Darno, that was good to see him last night. Hit that nice home run the first inning or the second inning, because he hasn't done much at all at the plate during the series. He had that home run. He had a single later. So if you could get him going, you still need to get Dansby Swanson going. He's not having a Dansby.
Dansby hit that ball to center, though.
Yes, he did. He did. So, if you get a couple more of these guys going, the offense could really come alive and put together a nice, 8-run game or whatever. But that's what you need to get going. I thought Soler, I'm really impressed with how good Soler's looked coming off after missing that much time, because he's hitting balls hard, man. He had a couple of fouls. The one that was caught down the line, I mean, that was hit a long way too, but he could do some more damage, and he could do some damage there in Houston with those Crawford boxes. They had a few guys get do damage there, so you get this thing back there for a game 6. I know they'd like to finish it here, not go back, but these guys they got a team well equipped to hit in that ballpark. Those really so short in left field. God,
it's so funny too, because I'm seeing, after the Braves beat the Dodgers, all this stuff like, well, they just got hot at the right time. All this stuff about how they got hot and they just started playing with the right. I'm like, you've been watching the team. They've been this hot. They've been playing like this. They've been doing this since August.
Since the beginning of August.
The way they played game 1, that didn't shock anybody that's been watching the team. When they piled on a couple homers and tacked on some extra runs, you're like, yeah, that's just what this team's been doing for 3 months now.
That's just people that look at 88 wins.
Yeah.
And just look at 106 wins. And they don't look at what the teams have done in the last 2 months when they were basically equals.
Yeah.
Who cares what happened in the first 4 months? Look what they've done in the last 2 months of the season. This is who they are. This is who they. And on the other hand, they had the best 1-2 pitching combination in baseball for the last 2 months with Fried and Charlie. And now you don't have that with Charlie out. So they got more adversity to overcome. I don't think anybody that's watched them replace one guy after another is going to write them off yet, though, because they've overcome
everything.
Darno gone 3 months. Ozuna gone almost the entire season. Acuna gone the second half. Soroka gone the entire season. I mean, it has been one thing after another with his team.
Yeah.
And they've overcome. So they just have to do it again with their postseason god in Charlie Morton.
Well, they need Anderson to step up is what they need.
Absolutely.
And Houston hasn't seen him yet.
Yeah, he pitched well the last time out.
Yeah, he did. And he got yanked early in that game because it was just a chance to get Rosario up maybe it wound up working, but he was cruising in that game against the Dodgers.
He ain't gonna get yanked early this time.
No, because they need that pen.
They need to go 6 good innings, man.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. The games have not been pretty so far, but the Braves will take 1-1 any day of the week. So now they're home for 3 games. Thankfully, they got that home field advantage for this, or they got the 3 games in the middle and they split the first 2.
The 3 in the middle is just as big.
Yeah. If you can just pull a split off that first one, in effect, you almost have home field advantage, if you're playing really well at home.
Well, if you look at it this way, look at it as a 5-game series.
Right.
That's what it is now.
That's what it is now.
You got home field for a 5-game series because you were able to go to Houston and split.
That's right. You've got home field advantage now because all you have to do, if you can win 2 out of 3 here, then you go back and all you need to do is split.
Split on the road.
So
World Series champ.
It's crazy, isn't it? To think at the times the way this season looked for so much of the year, this team's in position. I mean, they're 3 wins from winning a World Series, man.
Oh shit, we said it all year. They'll turn this thing around at some point, but I started to doubt us too. I was like, shit, man, they look a lot better than they're playing, and I think they're a better team than this. But I felt like there was about a month straight where we were constantly saying they were going to turn it around.
Yeah.
And it was starting to look like maybe they won't. But we kept saying it.
For people that are at home and watching and wondering how the confidence is, and when you lose Charlie Morton and they worried about the confidence and the momentum shift in LA after LA did the same thing they did to them last year, you guys should not worry because this team is different than you think. Anybody that doesn't notice so far, this team is confident, man. They believe in each other no matter what happens. And that doesn't waver with Charlie being out. This team still believes. It's almost like they're like, bring it on, bring more adversity. That's just the attitude they have. they feed off each other, and they all still believe. They believe entirely. So their confidence, if the confidence of some fans is a little shaky right now, the team's is not.
No,
it really is not. So,
and they would have, if they would have cracked after the Dodgers had those comeback wins in LA,
exactly,
and then beat the shit out of them the next day, and they came back to Atlanta, with a 1-game lead, need to win 1 out of 2. It didn't even go down to the wire. They won Game 6, and that was it.
Absolutely.
So. If they were feeling that pressure, they wouldn't have just put them away Game 6.
Yeah.
They learned a lot from last year.
So we'll see where we are in 3 games here. The Braves would like for this thing not to go back to Houston. They'd like to be having a parade instead of going back to Houston.
They might.
It's possible.
They're tough at home.
They're very tough at home. 10 out of 11. All 5 in the postseason so far against the Dodgers and Brewers. So we'll see. All right, that's it, everybody. We appreciate you guys listening to us on these multiple shows. The more shows we're doing during the postseason, we keep doing more because you guys are giving us great ratings and we're getting good numbers. And obviously, there's an appetite for it. So we'll keep doing it as long as you guys are listening. And hopefully, we have a show about the Braves taking command of this series in a couple of days.
Monday or Sunday.
All right, 7:55 is real, and we are out.